Hey, what's up, everyone? It's your man, Sean Zittel. Happy 4th of July weekend to all of you, and I hope you all have a great 4th of July weekend. And there will be fireworks. Corny, I know, but there will be fireworks in Cleveland this weekend. Actually, I have some FOMO. I have some fear of missing out. I'm staying behind here in Vegas to be with family for the weekend, but kind of wish I was in Cleveland to catch this card because it's a quartet headlined with a pretty good quartet headlining, and Scooter Davis, Bruce "Shoo Shoo" Carrington, Tiger Johnson, and of course Abdullah Mason in the main event. So obviously Albert Bell, late replacement for Joe Cordina. I think it actually upgrades the event. 2 Ohio fighters. You guys watching already know all this, but I'm just doing this video to say Abdullah Mason is one of them ones, as it's said these days. I think he is one of boxing's next great fighters. And I think it's fitting that Terrence Crawford will be on his first broadcast with him as a headliner, and that he's following Jaron Boots Ennis a week after Ennis knocks out Xander Zayas. He has a 74-inch reach like both of them, and just has electricity in his hands. He has that special blend of speed and snapping punching power and length and a frame to go up multiple weight classes and become one of the great fighters in the sport. And I even made sure to reach out to Jim Lampley this weekend to tell him, hey, Jim, try to make this an appointment viewing to watch Abdullah Mason. And because he's a fighter you don't want to miss. He could be one of boxing's next great fighters. So after Boots won by knockout in Brooklyn a couple days ago, I said, I think Boots, Benavidez, Bam Rodriguez, Naoya Inoue are the Mount Rushmore right now of spectacular fighters in the sport, meaning they're 4 fighters that are both pound for pound elite type level fighters, and also pound for pound some of the most exciting television fighters in the sport today. They're simultaneously on both lists. And I think Abdullah Mason is pegged to join them eventually. Not too soon. He's only 21, 22. I think he might be 22 now. Won his title at 21. But I think he is the next one of those kinds of fighters who's going to be a must-see talent. Now, Albert Bell is a fighter I've covered for many years, actually, when he was with Top Rank, and was, I believe, a #1 contender for a while at 130 while at Top Rank. Never got a shot. Same thing with a guy like Andreas Cortez, who's with Zuffa now. So, as fate would have it, he winds up fighting one of Top Rank's young golden boys in Abdullah Mason for the title. So he's going to be coming in with a lot to prove. And Albert Bell was always a good fighter to me. Always reminded me a little bit of another freakishly tall lightweight from Toledo, Ohio, I believe. And that was Robert Easter Bunny, or Bunny, aka Bunny, Robert Easter. And I think Albert Bell used his height a little bit better than Robert Easter did. And Robert Easter became an IBF lightweight champion. And I think Albert Bell is going to provide a serious test for Abdullah Mason. And this is going to be very good for Abdullah Mason's development. I think this is going to be a competitive fight. And Albert Bell, even though he only has 9 knockouts and 28 wins, he has more snap on the end. If he catches you at the end of his shots, it's going to get your attention. And he goes to the body well, has a good jab. If he catches you at the end of the right hand, it's good. Got a little left hook. He knocked one fighter out recently with like a half uppercut, half left hook. And he's tough and he's hungry. And he's a grown-ass man, and he has many rounds sparred with Abdullah Mason and known him since he was a little kid. So he's coming to win this fight. And being this all Ohio fight, again, I think the event is upgraded from Joe Cordina. But that being said, I'm picking Abdullah Mason by late stoppage in this fight. He is, what he showed against Sam Noakes, or what he showed against Johan Vasquez, is he has that grit to go with all that talent. And I think there's no way he leaves Cleveland without that belt still in his hands. And he's just, again, that special combination of that wiry punching power, that electric, snappy power at the end of the punch, and that hand speed. He'll find a way. Even if Albert Bell is in fact more savvy, more experienced in some ways, a little craftier, that speed power combo won't be denied. And I think even if Mason is even with him halfway through the fight, or even behind after the fight, that's where the grit kicks in. That's where he gets where he starts to take one to land one basically if he needs to, and he starts to bite down and get to the second and third layer of both fighters' combinations and finds a way to hurt Albert Bell with that whipping power. So I think that's what happens in this fight. I think it's going to be a good competitive test. This is going to be great for his development in actually using his 74-inch reach to the best of his abilities. Tim Bradley, I'm almost upset I listened to his segment yesterday on the fight because he articulated so many things I see with my eyes about Abdullah Mason, but articulated in a way, of course, even at a better level than I can, having been a Hall of Fame fighter. But to reiterate some of what Tim said, that I also see in the Noakes fight, he throws everything as a power jab. He gives up his height when he does it because he steps into it. He gets a little front foot heavy, throws everything hard, doesn't really feint a whole lot. And, but, you know, because like Jaron Ennis last week, he's a very talented fighter whose skill set is still developing. Ennis's skill set is definitely further along right now and has more upper body movement than Abdullah Mason, but he's a very, very gifted fighter with an offensive mindset. And that's why I said he's going to be one of the great must-see fighters to see in boxing. So I think this fight will be very important against a guy who's 6 feet tall with a 73-inch reach. That'll force him to learn to really start tapping into making the most of his gift in reach at 74 inches. And this fight will really show off his body punching because he's gonna have to start to the body and chop that tree down to eventually hurt Albert Bell up top. And I expect him to do that at some point. So yeah, I think I think he's gonna be one of the must-see fighters in boxing. Here comes the hot take part a little bit. You guys let me know what you think. If nothing else, just something to make you think, a discussion in the comments. I think his upside is greater than Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney, and Keyshawn Davis, and Gervonta Davis. I think, now here's the difference. I think all those guys were a little smarter than Abdullah, even at this stage of their development. There's something about their temperament, and I think also one thing they all have in common that Abdullah doesn't have is mentors like Floyd or Andre Ward or Terrence Crawford, or even more beyond that. Devin had Mike McCallum and Roy Jones, etc. Tons and tons of Hall of Famers all through their development, and Keyshawn, longer amateur career, things like that. And Abdullah Mason is just getting it out the mud. He just got his own boxing gym for this title defense. Before that, he told me at Garcia Barrios, he was literally training, in his basement, with his brothers. So his father, who, when I went back, I got to give him credit. He actually was telling him a lot of the right things in the Sam Noakes fight when I went back and watched that fight a day or two ago. But his father is green in the corner. All his brothers, they don't have corner experience in championship level. They're learning on the fly. And that's going to be the uphill climb for him. Can he ever develop the boxing IQ? All that stuff. That's the question for Abdullah Mason. But from a raw talent standpoint of punching power and hand speed and length and grit and fighting ability, I think he actually has the higher ceiling than all of them, and can be a little more, because Keyshawn has an exciting style. He's a good combination puncher. He has offensive firepower. He's a versatile boxer puncher, slick, good puncher, great skills, all that. But I think Abdullah Mason is a little bit more of an electric natural talent potentially going forward, projection-wise, ceiling-wise. And then Gervonta's a knockout artist, but doesn't throw a lot of punches and hasn't, I don't know, I think you can go back to the knee with Lamont Roach. We don't know if he has that kind of dog in him long term and all that, and I think Abdullah Mason does, but it's got to be seen against better competition. He's just getting started at this level. And then Devin Haney and Shakur are master chess players, but they don't have the punching power that Abdullah Mason has. So yeah, that's kind of the hot take in all this, is that he can be have a higher upside than all those guys in the long run. If he reaches his potential, the way, and if all those fighters reach their potential, I think he's got the greatest potential, the longest reach, And yeah, I don't know. You guys discuss that in the comments, what you think about that. He's got to prove it, though. He's not nearly as proven as Shakur, Devin, and even Gervonta, and not as decorated an amateur as Keyshawn, but much younger than all of them. And I think sky's the limit. I think even #1 pound for pound could be in the young man's future at some point. And then also another guy that I think will be on that very exciting, also in the pound for pound list kind of discussion is Moses Itama, but that's another discussion for another day. Anyways, looking forward to the card. Shushu Carrington is a very exciting champion too. Great counter puncher. When he's first and he's last, he's going to be very hard to beat in the featherweight division. What I mean by that is not forgetting to initiate with his jab, and then he can get to his counter punch game. I've talked with Bruce about that the last couple months, and when he does that, he's very hard to beat. Against Rene Palacios, Tiger Johnson, very fast hands, good talent in the welterweight division. Got a bigger name now after the controversy with Haney in New York. And then Scooter Davis, another exciting talent, a puncher, a guy who comes from the DMV, the DC area, who likes to fight in the pocket, but with athleticism and punching power. Jaron Ennis shouted him out not too long ago. He has a great opportunity opening up that card. But yeah, in closing, I think it'll be a test for Abdullah Mason. It'll be a competitive fight, but I think in the end he will win by a stoppage late in the fight and continue to show why he's one of the can't miss young fighters in the sport. So, peace.